This technique is going to show a time lapse of creating a weaving in the background. So you're going to want to find a couple of materials to work with. What I'm going to be using in this video is tinfoil and construction paper, but you could use really a numerous amount of materials. So you could also do construction paper. You could maybe use just a plain piece of paper and draw some sort of design on it. But I'm going to go ahead and play the time lapse so you can see myself creating the collage. I'm not worried right now about the portrait itself. I'm just going to create the weaving for the background, and then I'll cut out the portrait to put on top. But I'm basically just cutting thin strips of the different materials. So I'm keeping my color scheme consistent and using blue and orange construction paper. And then I'm going to also be using tinfoil just to add a different kind of texture and color into it. But again, be creative with the materials that you choose. I'm going to lay out how I want it to be woven first. So I'm going to start with just using the orange construction paper and then the tinfoil and repeating them every other here just to get things lined up for the starting background, and then I'll go in and start weaving from the side. So I'm going to tape this across just to make sure everything is held into place. And then everything is secure and ready to start weaving into. So then I'm going to take my first piece for the next one, and just every other I'm going to weave that piece through and then push it up towards the top. And then I'm going to grab my next material, which is the tinfoil here. So I'm going to repeat the blue and then tinfoil this direction. But you can be creative, switch it up, or you could keep it the same as what you did previously for the vertical strips. But I'm just horizontally weaving this through the opposite way. So now instead of the tinfoil being on the top, I have the orange construction paper on the top here. And then I'm just going to push it through to make sure that it is lined up at the top. And same thing with this next strip, I'm just going to be switching every other, and this time the tinfoil is on the top again. So as you go through, just take your time, make sure that you're really double checking which piece is or should be on the top so that it all sticks together when you're finished. All right, and then I'm taking the tinfoil again, and I'm going to just kind of jump ahead here. So I take the tinfoil, weave that through, and then the blue again. And here's where I had cut out my portrait. Couple of different ways you could do this. You could leave your portrait without cutting it out and then just cut strips of your woven piece. That might be a little more challenging though, so I would recommend cutting out your portrait and then just putting it on top of your woven background. You'll probably want to use one of those thinner pieces of paper from your art kit as the background that you're then able to use the weaving to put on top so it's not super flimsy. So a thin piece of paper would work great for the background there. So I'm just cutting out the edges here of my portrait, laying that down, kind of figuring out where it looks best. And then you can almost take pieces either off of what you have woven, or maybe you have some extra pieces that you have cut out, and I'm going to just try to kind of make everything fit in that space. So since I cut some of the shoulders off there, it feels like it's kind of incomplete, so I'm just going to overlap it a little bit to add more to make everything feel cohesive and unified. But there is the final portrait with the woven background technique.